Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. Great to be back with you live this week. Coming off of a disappointing loss to LSU. Today in the podcast, we're going to take a look and review in the first segment the LSU game. In the second segment, we're going to identify our standout players of the game on offense, defense, and special teams. And then our third and final segment today, we're going to preview our upcoming game against Mississippi State. You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com. Well, back on the podcast today in our first segment, we're going to take and review the LSU game. Not the result that we wanted. Disappointment to in our fan base. I'm sure our team was disappointed. I was disappointed in the loss to LSU, but you have to give, first of all, LSU credit. They came in hitting on all cylinders, did a great job in every phase of the game. They did a great job offensively to take advantage of us. They did a good job defensively to stop us when they could. And they had a breakdown on special teams, but other than that, it was a pretty good, well-rounded game by the LSU Tigers. We have to give them credit. Looking to review the game by Alabama, and we had said last week in our podcast that Alabama had some keys to victory. And one of those keys to victory that we had on offense was to execute and limit our mistakes. And the second key to victory, we said, was to run the ball well. Well, I don't think you have to look very far to see the downfall in this game was that we did not execute and limit our mistakes, and we did not run the ball. And I'll talk about that later. We didn't commit to run the ball early in the game, so I think that affected us. I believe Tua played a really overall well game. It took him a while to settle down on his passing, but he did. It was very accurate in the second half. But he was rusty. He had some rust from being out for 20 days, and all that affected his play. But I think you looked at one play or a couple of plays. You look at the miscues, the mistakes that we made on offense really hurt us in this game. You know, you can point to our defense, and there was a lot of lapses that we'll talk about in just a few moments, but really, LSU hit their mark on their average for points, and we didn't hit ours. If we had hit our mark on points, then we would have definitely been able to win this game. Our problem came in the early miscues. The pivotal point, I think, in this game came early on the drive. We were driving for a score, and we fumbled the ball there going in the end zone. I think 99.9% of the time, Tua doesn't make that fumble. It was just a fluke. It came out of his hands. There we either lose 7 points or we lose a field goal at least. In that situation, a field goal attempt, we give them the ball, they drive all the way for a score, and they put 7 points on the board. That's one of the mistakes and miscues. The other is right before the half with 20-something seconds to go, we throw the ball. I question a little bit why we're throwing the ball there. But I know they're trying to win the game, so they're trying to hit a big play. But, Tua did not learn from his earlier mistakes in earlier games where he threw into the same coverage and just missed reading that linebacker, and he threw it right to him. He intercepts the ball, and they go on to score. So we also had a miscue in the special teams with our punter, our freshman punter. His first punt hits him in the hands with the ball, and it fumbles the ball, and that gives them great field position, which they take advantage of. So we're talking about 20 points spread there. I think they missed one of those extra points, but 20 points it would give them, and you can't spot a good team like LSU 20 points and expect to come away with an easy victory. And although we played great in the second half and we came back as far as on offense and really executed the second half and was in a position to compete to win the game with an onside kick at the end, giving up those 20 points really hurt us. So I know our defense didn't play well, but my review of the game shows that it was the lack of execution on offense, the miscues early in the game, and also the fact that we didn't commit ourselves to run the ball. We run the ball one time, and Najee Harris has a long run on that first drive, and then we get away from that run. And I know Coach Saban says we couldn't run the ball early on, but we proved late in the game that Najee Harris had a fantastic game in this running the ball, over 160 yards rushing in this game, and did a great job of hitting the holes. Our line did a good job blocking. And I believe those runs were there earlier. If we had just committed to the run, we've been able to limit LSU's opportunities to get the ball and score. So, I think two things we said should happen, play mistake-free and run the ball, early on did not happen, and that led to our downfall in this game. Now, I know if you can't review without talking about the miscues that happened on defense as well. We gave up a lot of points, but remember, LSU is a great offense. They took advantage of some plays and did a good job of scoring. But that's what they've done all year long. And we could have held them, like I said, those 20-point spread, 20-point turnaround was on those taking advantage of our mistakes. And I think we could have had an opportunity to hold them, but we just didn't. Our defense missed so many tackles in space, and a lot of that goes to just individuals not making the plays, but some of it goes to coaching. We said last week on the podcast that we're going to have to tackle open in space in this game and do a good job of it. And I'm not sure that was really taught well during the week. We didn't have a lot of physicality. I think a part of the philosophy has gone away from physical hitting because of we're in the era now of head injuries and other things that we just aren't teaching the correct way to tackle. You can tackle physical and play intimidating football and still tackle the right way, correct form, without using the crown of your helmet, without targeting anyone. So we just didn't do a good job of tackling in this game, and I have to give some of the blame to that to the coaching. I just think it was poor coaching as far as preparation. I'm not blaming any particular coach, but just in preparing for this game. We said last week that on defense, one thing we was going to have to watch for was Joe Burrow's ability to run. And I'm not sure that we concentrated enough on during the week because it didn't show in this game an ability to stop that. And so he hurt us with the quarterback draw several times. We pointed it out on the podcast. The tendency was to line up and run the quarterback draw. We didn't seem to be ready for it, and that hurt us defensively. Another thing that hurt us defensively is we didn't seem to be ready for his ability to step up in the pocket. I saw that on film, identified it last week in our podcast. He loves to step in the pocket. He stepped up in the pocket several times and made some great throws. When we had pressure on him in the second half, where we did limit him and got off the field on third down, it's when we moved him out of the pocket, pushed him out to the right or to the left, and made him throw on the run. He had a couple of throws that he threw high. Doesn't throw good on the run, and I don't think the coaching game plan there defensively was there to do that enough. And so I blame a little bit of the coaching on that aspect of the defense as well. But we missed a lot of tackles. We didn't execute well. Another thing I blame on the coach on defense is there were several times we had the wrong combination of players in the game. It just looked like we got the wrong combination out there in the wrong situations. We weren't matching up well on what LSU was calling, and just think the communication lacked a little bit in this game. So that all led to the downfall of our defense and caused us to be a little behind the eight ball in this game. But I don't want to take anything away from LSU. They came into our stadium, and I applaud the crowd. The crowd was fantastic. It was electric in there. We had a home field advantage, but they came in. They took advantage of us in some situations and did a great job. So, I salute LSU for coming in here and doing that to Alabama. I think on another day when we were hitting on all cylinders and executing and not making mistakes. And when I say not making mistakes, I'm talking about unforced errors. They didn't force us to fumble the ball. We just fumbled it in midair there by fluke, and we threw right into that coverage to get the interception. So, and our punter drops the ball. It wasn't he was pressured; he dropped the ball. So I'm talking about unforced errors. Not that they forced us to drop the ball, but we did it on our own. So those things led to our downfall in this game. So we're going to have to bounce back. We got Mississippi State coming, and we'll talk more about that in the third segment here today. But we've got to bounce back. We've got to get our heads up. We got more games to play. All we can do is win the rest of our games on our schedule. In the end, when it's all said and done, if we win the rest of the games on our schedule, we'll be in a good position. And it just happens to see where the chips fall at that point. But a disappointing loss, but we have to pick up and move on and play the next game. Well, in the second segment, I want to highlight my players of the game, my standout players of the game on offense. You don't have to look any further than Najee Harris. Najee Harris played a great game in this game. Ran the ball with explosiveness, with passion. He was very aggressive in running the ball, hitting the holes. Did a good job in the blocking. He did a good job in the passing game. Caught an amazing touchdown pass. So, just can't say enough about Najee Harris. Wish we'd have given him the ball more in the first half of the game. First quarter, run the ball more in the second quarter. I think we would have come out better in this game. It would have limited LSU's ability to get on the field. So if we'd ran the ball more, so I really think Najee Harris was a fine standout player of the game in this game. The other standout player of the game on offense is Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith, probably the most unheralded wide receiver we have. Everybody talks about Henry Ruggs' speed and Jerry Jeudy's ability to run the routes and Jalen Waddle's wiggle that he has. But Devonta Smith is a catcher, a pass catcher. He has great hands, but he has deceptive speed. He has great route running ability. I think he has the best of all the other three rolled into one. And he showed it with over 200 receiving yards in this game for multiple touchdowns, and we just can't say enough about Devonta Smith and his ability to play offensively in this game. On defense, the two defensive players, there was a lot of defensive players that didn't play good, but two that played well, and they were the reason that we did get off the field when we did get off the field on third down, and that was Terrell Lewis and Anthony Jennings. So they're my defensive standout players of the game. They both played well, even moved in the middle linebacker position at some points to play. They put some pressure on the edge. When they got Joe Burrow out of the pocket, he didn't throw well on the run. And the pressure on him caused us to get him off the field on third down. And so I think Terrell Lewis and Anthony Jennings were just really the defensive standouts in this game. And on special teams, you can't talk about this special teams game's play without talking about Jalen Waddle. His 77-yard or 75-yard return for a touchdown after almost being decapitated with a face mask on that play. I mean, how do you regains his composure and gets outside and runs that ball back for a touchdown that really changed the momentum in this game? Just was really, really good in all facets of the game. But his special teams play and catching the punts and getting field position and running that touchdown back was really good. So my standout players of the game on offense are Najee Harris and Devonta Smith. On defense, Terrell Lewis and Anthony Jennings. And on special teams, Jalen Waddle. Well, in our third and final segment today, we want to preview the upcoming game against Mississippi State. And then we're going to look ahead a little bit and look at our chances in the college football playoff. Well, we won't have any chance in the college football playoff unless we win the games that are ahead of us. So let's talk about Mississippi State. We got to go on the road. We're going on the road to a tough place to play there with the cowbells ringing in Starkville, Mississippi. It's going to be an early game, 11 o'clock game. We're going to play in a team that doesn't have much to play for. It really sets up well for Alabama to lay an egg and have a down game because we're coming off a bruising loss and a tough loss, a disappointing loss to LSU. So all the factors are coming together for Alabama to have a down game. So what we have to do is we got to fight against that. It's going to be preeminent for the coaches this week to get in the minds of the players that we still have something to play for. There's no way that we'll ever be in the conversation for the college football playoff unless we win every game on our schedule here on out. And that starts with Mississippi State. So if we can translate that message down to the players and get us emotionally and mentally ready to play this game, we're going to have a really good chance to go on the road and get a quality SEC road win under our belt at Mississippi State. Now Mississippi State's going to come out and they've always played us a tough game, but they're going to have an opportunity to see us to get us while we're down after a loss to LSU, after we've been deflated at home and deflated a little bit. They're going to expect us to come in there and be a little down, so I think they're going to try to take advantage of that. They're going to come in with their quarterbacks. I think both quarterbacks are able to play in this game, whether it's Schrader or Stevens. Both of them have ability to run the ball. So one thing we're going to have to do on defensively is limit the quarterback's ability to extend plays by running with his legs and making plays on third downs. So we're going to have to stop the quarterback, force them to pass, don't let them run the ball. I think they're going to run with either quarterback, they'll run the offense that they normally run. So we got to concentrate on stopping him and beating us with his legs. They have one of the best running backs in the SEC, leading the SEC with yardage. That's Kylan Hill. So they're going to run the ball, try to pound the ball. We've got to stop the run. We've got to do a better job of tackling in this game than we did in the last game. The game against LSU, Edwards-Helaire, he just really exploited the defense and by running the ball. If we let Kylan Hill do that, it'll be a long day in Starkville Saturday. So we've got to come out. We've got to tackle physically. We've got to play smart and tackle the run, stop the run, and force them into throwing the ball. I think if we force them to throw the ball, then our defensive backs have an advantage against their wide receivers and tight ends. So we want to stop the run and force them to throw the ball. On offense, we got to go in and we've got to establish the run. They have a really good secondary. Their ball-hawking secondary have intercepted a lot of plays, a lot of passes this year. And so we've got to establish the run. We've got to commit to run the ball and open up our passing lanes for Tua to hit those slants that wasn't available in the LSU game as much because we didn't show that we were going to commit to run the ball. So I think if we commit to run the ball in this game against Mississippi State, Tua will have a field day in picking apart. If our offensive line can give him enough time, a field day in picking apart the defense. But we can't rush. We can't throw into coverage, and we've got to run the ball to set up the pass in this game. I look for Tua to have a bounce back game. I look for Devonta Smith and the other wide receivers to do well in this game, and Najee Harris to have a big game if we commit to run the ball. And the foremost thing that we have to do is we have to limit our mistakes, our unforced errors. We can't give them the ball. We can't lay it on the ground. We can't give them interceptions. We can't give them fumbles. We've got to concentrate. Now, it's going to take a lot. We're going to have to black out in our memory everything that's taken place. One thing that Coach Saban has always been good at is getting the team to motivate them to play after a loss. It's important. It's important for us to do that and come out mentally ready. He's really good at that. We've always been able to motivate better after a loss than after a victory. So I look for Coach Saban to come into this game with an opportunity to show he is the best coach in the nation, motivate his players, get his players up to play in this game and do a really, really good job of executing in this game, and I think Alabama comes out a victory. And, I believe we're going to come out hitting up on all cylinders. We're going to play well. In the end, I think Alabama wins this game against Mississippi State 52-17. I want to talk a little bit about now our college football playoff chances. All the pundits, I think, would love to see Alabama not in the college football playoff. I think there's a lot of Alabama fatigue out there. But there's still a path for Alabama to make it to the playoffs. We've had worse chances before. One time we had to rely on a fluke play in the Mississippi-Arkansas game where Arkansas had a 4th and 25 and threw backward laterals until they made that 4th down and to ultimately defeat Mississippi for us to go on and get a chance to get into the championship game then. Well, all we can do is win every game on our schedule that's left remaining. And if we win all those games, we'll be the only one-loss team that has got the best loss of anyone. We'll have lost to the number one team in the nation, the LSU Tigers. So I think it'd be hard to keep Alabama out in the end if we're that one-loss team, if we win all of our games. It's easier road to get in if some other people lose. I hate for us not to control our own destiny, but in this game, all we can do and all we can talk about is win the game that's on your schedule, concentrate on the game ahead, and let the chips fall where they may otherwise. Do I think Alabama should be in the college football playoff? I do. I think if we'd limited our mistakes against LSU, we'd have won that game. So I think I think we're one of the 4 top teams in the nation. I think that we'll be that way when we end. And as long as we win the rest of our games, I think Alabama's in the college football playoff. Well, We'll be back next week with another podcast. Lance and I want to thank all of you that's watching and listening to our podcast out there. To us, give us a like on Facebook at the DC Capstone Report page. Go out and look at RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. Lance has got some great pictures out there of the games that you can tap into and download and get those free. So we appreciate your listeners. We thank you for all you've done to make this DC Capstone Report a success. And until next time, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report, signing off. Roll Tide.